I am Marithina Sajay. You're watching New Vision TV news around East Africa and around the world. We start with the news around East Africa. We start from Tanzania, where Tanzania continues to mourn a businessman, Reginald Mengi, who died last week. After ceremonies in Dar es Salaam, the body arrived in the northern region of Kilimanjaro, where it is being viewed in different towns before the burial on Thursday. Mengi was an industrialist, media owner, and philanthropist. News from Kenya. Kenyans in Uganda start registering for Huduma, an integrated service number that links all personal data, including the national identity card, tax particulars, national health insurance, crime record, tax particulars. Registration takes place at the High Commission in Kampala, starting this Wednesday and continues for 45 days non-stop, including weekends and public holidays. We close the news around East Africa from Uganda, where Uganda President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has commissioned 10 factories in one day in the ongoing drive to industrialize the country and drive it to middle-income status by next year. The 10 factories have added 5,000 new jobs to the country's employment. Let's look at other stories making headlines beyond East Africa. Now, from South Africa, the African National Congress faced its toughest electoral test on Wednesday as it sought to reverse a slide in support from voters frustrated by graft and racial inequalities a generation after it won power in South Africa's first all-race poll. Queues built up at polling stations through the morning as South Africans started voting in parliamentary and provincial elections. Officials have not said when the final results will be announced. Now, the national election is the first under President Cyril Ramaphosa, who replaced scandal-plagued Jacob Zuma as head of state in February 2018 after 4 years as Zuma's deputy. Opinion polls suggest the ANC will again win the majority of the 400 seats in the National Assembly, but analysts have predicted its margin of victory will fall, particularly in major cities. From Sudan, Sudan's ruling transitional military council said on Tuesday it had the option to call for early elections within 6 months if they did not reach an agreement with the opposition on the structure and details of an interim government. The council also said that former intelligence chief Salah Ghosh was under house arrest and that more than 4 members of the council had resigned. Beyond Africa, from Afghanistan, an explosion shook an upscale area of the Afghan capital on Wednesday, the third day of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, sending a cloud of smoke and dust in the sky. It is not clear if there were any casualties. Security around Kabul has been tight since Taliban militants announced their annual spring offense, and the group vowed to target Afghan government and foreign installations. Interior Ministry spokesperson Nasrat Rahimi said the blast was on the Saraniu area of Kabul, but he had no detail on any casualties. Now, Rahim added there was sporadic gunfire in the area. The blast comes just over 2 weeks after gunmen targeted the communications ministry in the central Kabul, killing at least 7 people. The attack was claimed by the Islamic State. Moving on to Syria, Russia has increased its airstrike campaign on the northwestern Syria province of Idlib in the past few days, which rights group warn could lead to a new humanitarian crisis in the war-torn country. More than 100 Russian airstrikes have targeted Idlib and parts of the neighboring province of Hama in recent days. That is according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The observatory, which has researchers across Syria, charged that Syrian government helicopters have also dropped barrel bombs on towns and villages across Idlib. Now, since late April, militants have launched several military operations against Syrian regime troops, killing scores of them, which prompted the recent Russian bombardment that had killed dozens of civilians, according to the local media reports. News from Iran. Iran said it had started scaling back parts of its commitments under the 2015 nuclear deal on Wednesday and threatened to do more if world powers did not protect it from the U.S. sanctions, after Washington pulled out of the pact. President Hassan Rouhani said Tehran would move on to resuming high-level uranium enrichment if the remaining signatories, Britain, France, Germany, China, and Russia, do not make good on promises to shield its oil and banking sectors in the next 60 days. France's defense minister said she wanted to keep the nuclear deal alive, but warned Iran it could face more sanctions if it did not honor its part of the deal. Closing off the news around the world, we go to Iraq, where U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made an announcement visit to Baghdad on Tuesday and met Iraq's Prime Minister and other top officials to discuss the safety of Americans in Iraq and explain U.S. security concerns amid rising Iranian activity. The visit came 2 days after U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton said the United States was deploying the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and a bomber task force to the region because of a credible threat by Iranian regime forces. Washington has ramped up sanctions on Tehran over its nuclear program in recent months and designed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist group. Now, Iraqi Prime Minister Abdel Mahdi said the United States was an important strategic partner of Iraq, but stressed that Baghdad was continuing to seek a balanced relationship with all its friends and neighbors, including neighboring Iran. That is it for the news around East Africa and around the world. I am Rothi Nasije.